Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Mahe Ramadh'an Reflections Part 3. A selected translation of Ayatollah Misbah Yazdi's commentary on Dua al-Iftitah. Choosing the right path and divine support. وَأَنْتَ مُسَدِّدٌ لِلصَّوَابِ بِمَنِّكَ. And you always guide us to the right, out of your favors upon us. If a person is successful in transversing the right and straight path, it is, in reality, a favor that God has bestowed upon him, and He has helped him on this path. This part of the supplication shows that even though a human being has been created free to choose between the right and wrong path, however, if he chooses the right path, God supports him. This is an extra favor from God, that whoever chooses his path, God backs him up. Divine mercy and wrath. A question may come to mind here, that if God is the source of all good and perfections, and nothing but good and righteousness comes from Him, then why do some of the servants of God suffer? Why do some of them suffer calamities and difficulties, and even punishments in the hereafter? The truth is that we judge divine actions with the criteria and standards that our imperfect minds and intellects have made up, and we expect God to treat us the way that we think, whereas our knowledge and intellect are very limited and imperfect. All divine actions are based on wisdom and the best possible system, and we don't know its measure and its ins and its outs. Where God needs to be kind and compassionate to His servants, He is so kind and compassionate that one cannot imagine anything beyond that. However, sometimes there is no room for kindness and mercy. There, divine majesty, omnipotence, and glory are manifested. In such instances, the punishment is evident, and the manifestation of God's majesty regarding those who deserve punishment is complete. Thus, in the continuation of the supplication, we read, وَأَيْقَنْتُ أَنَّكَ أَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ فِي مَوْضِعِ الْعَفْوِ وَالرَّحْمَةِ. I am certain that you are the most merciful of all those who show mercy in situations of pardon and mercy. وَأَشَدُّ الْمُعَاقِبِينَ فِي مَوْضِعِ النَّكَالِ وَالنَّقِمَةِ. The harshest in punishment in situations of giving exemplary punishment and chastisement to the wrongdoers. وَأَعْظَمُ الْمُتَجَبِّرِينَ فِي مَوْضِعِ الْكِبْرِيَاءِ وَالْعَظَمَةِ. And the greatest omnipotent in the domain of absolute power and might. The necessity of fear and hope. That which leads to human bliss is that he understands that he is a humble servant before God and His greatness, and he has nothing from himself. All good belongs to God, and whatever suffering and misfortune befalls a person, it is the result of his own bad choices. He must know that if he chooses the wrong path through his own bad choice, he has practically gone to war with God, and God will punish him severely. A person must always be between fear and hope, and he must reflect that even though he has performed many acts of worship, he may be afflicted with the greatest of God's makr as a result of a single mistake, and he may leave this world with a bad fate, or that, even though he is very sinful and lowly, God may deliver him from this state, and he may have a good fate. Makr means neutralizing and turning the harmful conspiracies of deceivers against themselves. Feeling safe from God's makr is itself one of the greater sins. Even if a person spends his entire life in worship, he should not be satisfied with it and be proud of himself and be confident of the outcome of his actions. Becoming proud and exulting in oneself before God is a very great sin. Rather, one must always be afraid that if God leaves him to himself for even a moment, he will fall to the lowest of ranks. Thus, those who are closer to God like the prophets and divine guardians, their fear of God is greater. They perceive the majesty of God more than others, and despite possessing the position that God has bestowed upon them, they are in fear of being arrogant before Him for even a moment. On the other hand, God has considered despair of His mercy as one of the great sins. No matter how sinful a person may be, he must not despair of God's mercy. God's mercy is so extensive that if a person really repents and turns toward God, he will be forgiven. When a servant expresses the highest humility before God, and his state of fear and hope reaches its peak, he has taken a step on the path of perfection. According to a narration, verily there is no believer but that he has two lights in his heart, a light of fear and a light of hope. If you measure them, neither is superior to the other.